Why, hello there, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages. My name is Mr. Dogbot333, and welcome back to the new campaign trail. Last time we were here together, we hopped in to the world of a certain billionaire who decided to, without any public experience, throw millions of dollars into a race in order to try to win, and he did probably better than anyone expected. Now, that billionaire didn't end up doing too hot last week, at least last week when I was recording this. Third place is cool, but unless it's first or second in the California primary system, it's not anything. It doesn't matter. So, just gotta move on from that. Continue to live in fear that PG&E will burn down my town. And, just move on with my life, as you do, as best as you can, with that hovering over you. Now, on a totally unrelated note, we're going to be playing a billionaire who threw millions of dollars into a race and probably did better than he had any right to do. Ladies and gentlemen, please give it up for Mr. Henry Ross Perot. And welcome to Ross for Boss. I'm not really interested in public life. I'd be a square peg in a circle hole. Well, is there any scenario in which you would run for president? Is there any scenario in which you say, okay, I'm in? Well, number one, I don't want to. Number two, I've got all these everyday folks who make the whole world go round around me in longhand, and that touches me. I don't want to fail them, and so what I say to them, and all these folks constantly calling and right, if you're that serious, you the people, are that serious? You register me in 50 states. Well, there we go. This is what we got. Ladies and gentlemen, please give it up for Mr. Ross Perot. You lived the American dream. As a child, you were Texarkana's paper boy. Then you became a Boy Scout and a naval officer. Now you've become one of the richest men in the world. You were never the politician type, but now the American dream is under attack by soaring deficits, foreign wars, and trade deals that leave every American behind. Throughout your life, you were taught to stand on principle, and it's time that someone brought it back to this country. The people have spoken, and they want you to run. Let's get to work. Ross for boss. Ross for boss. Say it with me if you're at home, chat. Ross for boss. Ross for boss. Anyway. And serving beside us, at least temporarily, is James Stockdale from California. The man of steel, Admiral Stockdale, is the very definition of patriotism. He was a naval officer for 33 years, spending 7.5 of them as a POW during the Vietnam War. For his courage and leadership while in captivity, he received 2 Purple Hearts and the Medal of Honor. You've known him for decades, having worked with his wife's organization representing American POWs. He's not your first choice for a running mate, and he isn't interested in politics, but 25 states require a running mate to get ballot access, so he's agreed to be on the ticket for the next few months until you find a replacement. I'm assuming you can find one. We'll see. Our goal here is going to be simple. We're going to win. I don't know how simple. It doesn't get much simpler than that, really. I guess losing would be a little simpler. A lot simpler, actually. So, I take it back a little bit. Well, in just 3 months, you've become a major political force. Well, not on the ballot all 50 states yet, to supporters all across the U.S. Many people are willing to spend their weekend to get you on the ballot after a lifetime of bad leadership. They're working hard to get you there. After clearing the deadline on Texas ballot with twice the amount of signatures necessary, Tom Luce, trusted friend, personal attorney, and your campaign chairman, suggested that you plan to officially announce sometime in the next few months. So, Ross, how will you announce your candidacy? Well, an interview on Larry King Live, can't take no for an answer, is what started this campaign. To announce my presidency, I ought to buy time slots on those big fancy stations and give a nice explanation to the American people of who I am and why I'm running for president. In fact, why don't we do it on my birthday? Across America, tens of millions of people who knew barely anything about you watch your infomercial. giving information to voters and plain talk with graphs you made yourself. Beautiful. You tell them the hard truth of what needs to be done in this country, of how neither party is doing anything to fix things. It's re-aired on every station throughout the week. Good job, Ross. Okay, Ross, let's talk about fundraising. Recently, Governor Clinton, the presumptive Democratic nominee, has been getting flush with money from the DNC's purse strings. President Bush, meanwhile, is set for the general of his PAC money and $1,000 donor dinners. You need to find some way to fund his horse race. The question is how and from who. You know, I was talking with Jack Goggin, and he was saying I don't want people to call me a dilettante, and I'll leave a campaign to volunteers. I like that thinking. We'll limit donations to about $100 per person, and in the spirit of a grassroots campaign, all the money will be divided among the state chapters. Your advisors were furious. They say everyday Americans couldn't run a campaign, but your movement spreads across the country like locusts in a wheat field. The national campaign stays afloat on your dime, while the owners of this country make the state campaigns flourish with cash and volunteers. Oh, look at that. We are already, well, not winning yet, but we'll get there. So we're going to start with Villa in Illinois. Your campaign is the process of moving your campaign from Pro Systems to a shiny new building off LBJ Highway. You're meeting with James Squires in your new office. Campaign's press spokesman, he shares your contempt for the media, and he says there are over 2,500 backlog calls from the media. The media. Subjects you to a hazing process of wise guy questions and negative stories. Every one of them still has the same story. Who the heck are you, and why are you running for president? I like that reference. Well, I'll tell you why I'm running. Months ago, I promised the people they'd put my name on the ballot of all 50 states I'd run. They're making good on their promise, so I'm making good on mine. If you want to know why they chose someone like me, who wasn't even really interested in politics, then you have to ask the people themselves. The media mocks you. They laugh about the thought of electing someone who doesn't know anything about politics. The people, tired of self-serving politicians who take advantage of them, are shocked by the idea of someone who didn't want to run in the first place. That's why so many people are working as hard as they can to elect you. Meanwhile, you stare at awe of the destruction of Los Angeles. Destruction on TV. L.A., a grand city, burned to the ground, all because of some cops beat up a black perp. Being a Rodney King, when the 4 cops were acquitted, the L.A. riot started. This isn't just black versus white. This is America fighting itself instead of the elites who keep the entire country down. He'll save his country, but first he ought to do something about L.A. Well, you know, during the MLK riots all the way back in '68, Bobby Kennedy went to Indiana and gave a speech calling for peace. When he did that, people were so impressed they stopped rioting. If anyone knows how to give a speech, it's me. If I have a private jet, I'm going down to Los Angeles. The podium was quickly set up amongst piles of rubbles, with thousands of attendants and cameras aimed at you. You give a speech attacking the bureaucrats of destruction and calling for the renewal in America. Afterward, Tom Lucy calls you. Sir, I think you just won the election. Oh my god, we have won the election. Let's send a visit into Maryland. Perot launched investigations of Bush. That was the headline of Sunday's Washington Post article. They accuse you of having hired law firms to investigate Bush on potential corruption after you rebuffed your concerns about the POW MIA issue. Which is, for those who don't know, after Vietnam, thousands of soldiers remained missing. You believe they're still alive, but imprisoned. No evidence of impropriety by Bush. Reporters crowd around your front door demanding an answer. You know what the media seems to be ignoring? What the media seems to be ignoring are the actual findings of my investigation. While Bush was vice president, the government approved a $48 million tax break for an oil company that was chaired by a former business partner of Bush. Where's the outcry over that? The media does take note of this, but Bush denies he was ever in every way involved in the decision, and he finds a number of Reagan-era officials to support his claims. Only your most loyal supporters believe the allegations, and most people just write you off as grasping for straws. Well, let's find some more straws. Okay, abortion. That's something people can unite behind. Fuck. One bang of a gavel, and the anti-abortion movement's 20-year campaign has failed. In a 5-4 decision, Planned Parenthood versus Casey, while imposing certain restrictions on abortion, has allowed Roe v. Wade to live. As with any controversial issue, the ruling only further polarizes the map. The question on everyone's mind is, what does Perot think? Well, I've been talking with Tom Lucy, and he thinks the court made the right call. The problem with Roe was that it was too centralized. With this new ruling, states have more leeway on logistical stuff like wait times, but still have to allow abortion. I think that's a good compromise. You released a statement saying you personally opposed abortion, but think the court's decision was fair. For most Americans, this is a sensible position. While thanking Tom, you offer to make him Attorney General. Bill says he'll have to think more about this, which you take to mean he's more interested in a court appointment. Alright, we're going to be visiting New York now. You're visiting Olympia, Washington, with hundreds of supporters gathered together. The Capitol building cleared off for your rally. You were sure it would be the rally of the month. That is, until gay rights activists took over the stage. They grabbed the microphone and demanded that you reverse your pledge to bar gay people from the military and your cabinet. You told ABC that to avoid controversy, you wouldn't allow gay people or adulterers into the government. Worse, it might happen again. What do you do? Well, let me get this straight. These people ruined my rally because I hurt their feelings and now they want me to change my positions? How about no? If they hate me so much, they can go harass Clinton and Bush. Heck, if they disrupt my rally again, I'll stick the cops on them. This disappoints the gay supporters you have. The activists pledge to protest every event of yours, and the media attacks you for threatening the protesters. On top of that, Clinton has declared that he would allow gay people into the military. Then Constellation Rollins, co-campaigner, Reagan's 1984 campaign manager, you're certainly to spy for Bush. Rollins said you're making the right move by not flip-flopping. You're at a town hall hosted by ABC News. You're answering a question on the death penalty, but then Peter Jennings jumps in because he wants you to talk about an even more divisive topic. He's praying you'll mess up. You talked about drive-by shootings. This raises a question getting guns out of the hands of criminals. Would you consider implementing gun control? Well, the solution is to be targeted. Obviously, honest Americans should be able to keep their guns. On the other hand, the drunk kind of crazy, the guy showing up at a 7-Eleven that's willing to kill everyone in the store for $30, we need to keep the guns out of his hands. Okay, but how exactly would you keep guns out of their hands? Jennings asked. You hesitate, then fill time by offering an anecdote about a Navy man who was so focused on finding the right weapon, he missed the kamikaze heading towards him. Oh, that folksy charm. That'll save us. Since the LA riots, there's been a surge in minority voter engagement, with estimates predicting there'll be a bigger voting bloc than ever this year. On top of that, Bill Clinton's Sister Souljah moment created a rift between the party and Jesse Jackson's Rainbow Coalition. Civil rights leader, former presidential candidate, controls the black vote, which gives us an opportunity to attract minorities to your campaign. Got any ideas? You know, I was recently invited to attend the NAACP convention. Jesse Jackson fan club. Maybe I can go give a speech, show my support for African Americans in these trying times. Heck, Squires even wrote a speech for me. I ought to put that to use. Got some applause, but overall, you gave the same speech as everyone else there. At least you got some good press and notoriety amongst black voters. Afterwards, Jesse Jackson thanks you for coming and gives you well wishes. He leaves before you can ask for an endorsement. You're in your office looking at the new polls. Boy, they're not good. Suddenly your secretary comes in. It's Scott Barnes, an acquaintance of yours. Mystery box claims to be an undercover CIA agent. Discovered hundreds of missing POWs. He left a message saying he was approached by 2 Bush officials with computer-altered photos that made it look like your daughters are lesbians. They even offered him $150,000 to bug your office. He tells you to reveal it to the press. What do you do? Well, I'm actually glad Scott called, because I've decided to make him a special agent on the POW MIA issue. Tell him I'll send him a loan. He should use that to go to Vietnam for a few months. That way I can expose the dirty tricks in the U.S. and he can expose the cover-up in Asia. As soon as he gets the check, he's on a plane and out of your hair. Occasionally, Scott sends you letters detailing his adventures and how he's been casing local brothels and bars for clues. You find his tales exciting to read, and it's a nice way to relax from the stress of the campaign. Well, there we go. Your advisors have been upset with your tendency to buck their advice. Rawlings even sent a memo saying that you either need to drop out, listen to him, or fire him. Tom Lucy's tells you that a lot of people in the campaign feel this way. He also tells you that Hal Riney, specifically, wrote the infamous Morning America ad, wants you to spend every dime you have on television. He's angry you won't spend the money to air his ads. He always said that if my team loses, Tom wants to know what we should do. Fine. I'll air Riney's stupid ads, I'll listen to Jordan, I'll kiss Rawlinson's feet. But Don, I better not hear any more complaints from here on out. Remember, this is my campaign. We're running it my way. Riney is thrilled that his work will finally see the light of day, and Jordan seems content with your concessions, but Rawlins realizes you're just trying to shut him up and isn't happy. He's planning to make an announcement tomorrow. Buckle in, Ross. Uh-oh. Well, we're still winning, right? Leak after leak after leak. It just doesn't stop. The papers keep talking about the loyalty pledges, and the media kept running the clip of Ed Rawlings' resignation. After an argument with Tom Luce over the leaks, he got fed up and said he couldn't work on the campaign any longer. Just for good measure, the DNC started today. Clinton is expected to get a good boost in the polls. The campaign is collapsing, Ross. Do you have a plan? You know what I do when I make a mistake? I admit it. Let's release a statement apologizing to my electors. I shouldn't have forced loyalty pledges. There are better ways of going about it. Loyalty pledges? Well, you ask your electors to send contracts promising to vote for you in the Electoral College, just to be safe. I respect and appreciate every single person who took the time to volunteer for my campaign. You call some electors saying they didn't have a problem with the pledges, but thanking you for the apology. The next day at campaign headquarters, the volunteers throw a surprise party for you, thanking you for running for them. You smile the whole day. These people. This is why you're running. Oh, fuck. This is not good. You met Bill Clinton briefly in 1987. You just finished giving a speech in Washington. He was so impressed that he recommended you run for president. 5 years later, he and that Gore fellow walk on the convention stage to mighty applause. Pro-war, pro-NAFTA, tree-hugging, Nepo baby. Apparently playing the saxophone makes him the second coming and the front runner. The next day at a press conference, a reporter asks you for your thoughts on Clinton's nomination. You know, I served honorably in the Navy for 4 years and was president of my class in Naval Academy. I even helped rewrite the Academy's honor code. Bill Clinton, on the other hand, dodged military service by joining the school's ROTC until he got a hot draft number. Take your pick. Ooh, boy. Clinton gives a speech, red-faced, calling you a liar and a supporter of the war. Then he accuses you of doing the same thing as him by trying to use your father's illness to leave the Navy early. You tried to leave the Navy early. Then Dad died, and he stayed another 2 years to grieve alone at sea. Bill crossed the line. The rest of the month, you and Bill publicly bickered until both of your advisors convinced you that Bush was gaining ground. Yeah, he's gaining ground, fuck. You nearly spit out your cereal as you see the headlines. Apparently the economic plan you hired John P. White to make has been leaked. Thomas and Carter administration, you hired him to write a plan to eliminate the deficit. Your campaign was planning on unveiling the White deficit plan in 2 weeks, but they were still going over it to remove more controversial stuff. Balanced the budget in 5 years by raising taxes on the rich, increasing the gas tax, and cutting federal spending across the board, especially to welfare and the military. It also admits this would slow economic growth. Squires are saying this news is causing an uproar and we need to release a statement. Well, look. Nobody likes taxes. But the fact is, we've got a $4 trillion national... Remember, it was only $4 trillion. Most of you watching probably don't. I don't. It's bigger than it's ever been. And if we don't pay it down, our children and grandchildren are going to have to pay the price. We need to make sacrifices for them. This justifies your position as best as you can, but the people still hate it. They've had to make sacrifices for decades, and they want to see a return on that now. Later, when you're talking with John Anderson, who'd been candidate for president in 1980, he got 6.6% of the vote. He says you handled it the best you could, but that's coming from the guy who lost his race. Okay, I trust. Your status as an independent presidential candidate sparked a lot of discussion among third parties. Some call you wolf in sheep's clothing. Others, like Lenore Fulani, while she encourages minorities to vote for her, she recommends everyone else vote for you. The New Alliance Party thinks you're the only one of them who can win. Jordan, campaign manager, former chief of staff to Jimmy Carter, gives bad advice. He recommends you try to appeal to these groups in an effort to build a big tent movement. What do you think? You know, I remember hearing how Lowell Wacker was elected governor after making a Connecticut party, which is 1990. Former Republican Lowell Wacker got elected governor through a Connecticut party. After all, my staff's considering him as a running mate, and I'm trying to do what he did at the national level. At the party's first ever convention, you're treated like a king. You win the party's endorsement of 65% of the delegates, and by extension, will be at the top of Connecticut's ballot. Though, while listening to Governor Wacker's speech, the only thing that's missing is his own endorsement, which the media makes hay of. Well, we're still not doing winning numbers in Connecticut, but that's okay. Ever since the leaks, your public image and polls have been in the toilet. You've already dealt with your campaign staff, now you have to deal with the most important group, the people. Jordan tells you that you can still win this, but you've got to gain more supporters and please your existing ones. He wants to know if you have any ideas. You know, a while ago, Ed Rollins had this idea about a mail campaign. He had this list of all the folks who volunteered for me, and he wanted to send him a box full of merchandise along with a letter thanking them. Granted, no one likes junk mail, but it's worth a try. 4 or 5 million people were on that list, so the cost of this project was much higher than you would have liked. Regardless of millions of Americans who put you on the ballot are appreciative of the gesture, proudly frame your signed letter on the fireplace. Your state campaigns also receive a level of enthusiasm not seen in months. New York we go. You stand on the biggest stage you've ever seen. Banners, balloons, and cameras are being installed, and there will be 4 other stadiums around the country just like it, hooked up to this very stage by a satellite TV. You spare no expense for the convention. There'll be 5 stadiums so that anyone from around the U.S. can attend their local Perot convention. Beautiful. You plan on holding it the same week as the RNC. If that reduces the leadership of the RNC, that's just a happy coincidence. This begs the question, who will give the keynote speech? You know, seeing as foreign policy is my weak spot, we should get someone experienced in that on the stage. How about former Ambassador Jean Kirkpatrick? Heck, I watched her address at the RNC back in '84, and she lit the place up. She'd show folks was serious. The Democrats, like ostriches, bury their heads in the sand. The Republicans, like goats, charge at whatever moves. Ross Perot, like an eagle, will not hesitate to strike, while remembering the ultimate goal of protecting his nests. The crowd loves it. A reporter asks if her speech represents your foreign policy platform. You oughta, didn't you? When the Bushes first arrived in Texas, you predicted they'd bring trouble. Well, did you know they take it to the national stage? This brings you to today. During Donald Trump's convention speech, Bill Moyers catches up to you and asks you to comment on the Republican convention, which ends tonight. Well, our president gave a speech the other day, and it reminded me of a speech he gave 4 years earlier, where he told us he wasn't raising taxes. I'm here to remind you, he lied about that. If you want a president who doesn't fool around on you, or his wife for that matter, cast your vote for Perot. The liberal talking heads condemn you for alluding to Clinton's affair. Dan Quayle lashes out at you in his convention speech. Oh, that's their attack dog. How cute. All the while, you enjoy all the attention that should have gone to Bush. So much for a post-convention bounce. Well, we got 3 options. We are going to go with Jean Kirkpatrick. You'd make a great team. She was once a Democrat and professor at Georgetown, but she grew frustrated with the left's foreign policy, leading to her to become Reagan's foreign policy advisor and eventually the ambassador to the UN. Though she retired from government 7 years ago, she wants to help you out of frustration with President Bush, who'd shut her out of Washington ever since she criticized his foreign policy as too dovish. She'd bring foreign policy experience to appeal to conservatives, experience in the executive branch, and the list goes on. A climate that sees you as a joke, her selection would make it clear that you're not just a serious candidate, but prepared to be president. And there we go. When you selected Dr. Kirkpatrick, reactions on the convention were mixed. Some thought it was a smart move, others were uncomfortable with a professional being on the ticket. Most cheered for her because she had your blessing. Outside the convention, her nomination had sparked serious discussion about a potential Perot presidency. Jean had proven to be a game changer. How should we take advantage of this historic momentum? Maybe not historic momentum. Well, let's play up her bipartisan appeal. She's on foreign policy, she's Reagan's favorite, but on economic issues, she's a liberal. It's the best of both worlds. In fact, the AFL hasn't announced their endorsement yet. Let's meet with him and bring along Jean. Jean spoke emotionally about how she admired Hubert Humphrey and lamented the decline of the old Democratic Party. This seems to pull the union boss's heartstrings, but it didn't stop them from ripping into your labor record. In the end, they endorsed Clinton, but it's overshadowed by a survey showing 20% of union members plan to vote for you. Your convention had just wrapped up, and it immediately received word of a bad storm. Hurricane Andrew, they're calling it. 65 confirmed dead. Cost estimated $27.3 billion. Dozens dead, tens of billions in damage across Florida, Louisiana, and Mississippi. And a disconnect between the president and Governor Charles prevented troops and aid from being sent there quicker. What's your response? Oh, goodness gracious. We'll obviously be suspending the campaign. People will be donating to victims, not me. While we're at it, we need to take a visit there. These people have lost everything. They need help. I'm not sure how much a 62-year-old fella can do, but I'll try. Unlike Bush and Clinton, you don't bring any soldiers or bodyguards, so you communicate with the victims up close and personally. You feel their pain as they tell you about their losses. A photo of you hugging a Cuban immigrant whose small business was destroyed is all in the papers. You just wish you could help them all. Well, we're about to take over in New York. You sit in your office watching a Clinton speech. You're having a hard time understanding his fake southern accent. I feel a little called out there. But from what you can tell, he's promising to finally sign into law Ted Kennedy's proposal for universal health care. Just then, Orson knocks on your door. Close friend and new chief advisor. He's a loyal soldier. Sorry, what's your position on health care again? No, it's a tough issue. Well, the fact is, this issue affects everyone. My own parents had a child before me who died young. If Richard's family Texarkana can lose a child, then Lord knows what it's like for others. That's why I want to create a program that helps both the rich and poor. Something like Medicare, but for everyone. We'll work out the exact details later. The media accused you of copying Clinton, not having any ideas of your own. Not too long afterwards, Congressman Bernie Sanders, establishment's token independent, touts a medical for all proposal at every speech of his re-election campaign, but this kind of hypocrisy is why you're so popular. Well, we don't have the popular vote yet, but we're still hanging on pretty well in the Electoral College. You've been to 1,000,001 rallies, you've been on every TV show, you've even released that darn platform, yet the media still accuses you of ducking the issues. The one they harp on the most, foreign policy. Thought Kirkpatrick would handle this, but it seems they only want to know your position more, so it won't only throw it to the reporters. I find it interesting that after 10 years of helping Saddam Hussein create nuclear weapons, Bush has a problem with Iraq having said weapons. The president could have just embargoed Iraq, but no, he authorized Desert Storm. Iraq invaded Kuwait, so we kicked Iraq out in an attempt to start a new Cold War. Put our soldiers in danger because Saddam lied to him, said he'd only take northern Kuwait. Bush felt betrayed, and he needed to boost his ego. How does this guy get off? That was captured on a hot mic by none other than President Bush himself. After winning the Cold War, America wants peace, and you're the only candidate who will promise that. Although you have to clarify your hatred for Saddam after getting angry calls from some of your friends in Israel. Well, that's another $5 billion to H.W. Bush, I suppose. Anyway, it's already mid-September. So far, you've done most of your campaigning on TV, but Jordan tells you that you're going to have to do some physical campaigning like every other candidate. Luckily, he's willing to give you choice and location, so where to? You know, all over the United States, you have these small states that feel that just because they're small, they don't get any rallies. I'm going to fix that by going to the motherlode of all these states, the plains. Heck, I grew up around cowboys. I'll feel right at home in the prairie states. Your circuit tour goes great as people from all over the region come to hear you speak. At one point, you visit the Crow Indian Reservation in Montana. As the first presidential candidate to ever visit the tribe, they give you an honorary member, make you an honorary member, and give you your Indian name. Ross Dishilachi Akbilibiki. To any members of a Crow Indian reservation, I apologize. That was horrible. You brag about it every chance you get. Hopefully they don't ask you to pronounce it. Well, you got a month to go. Jordan emphasizes that this is the most important part of the campaign, as most voters make up their decision in October. We need to raise as much money as possible, do as many appearances as possible, convince as many voters as possible. Your advisors want to know if you have any ideas. Let's go on some television shows. Now, I've been on Larry King or The Today Show more times than I can count, but there are plenty of other shows that I could go on. They'll take the ratings boost, and I can spread my message to even more folks. I guess you can still teach an old horse new tricks. Get a standing ovation on Oprah Winfrey. You voice yourself in an episode of The Simpsons. The grand finale is when, at a Texas rally, two pros walk on stage as Dana Carvey from SNL jokes with you all evening. Dana Carvey plays you. Your brothers are mad at your sketches, but you find them hilarious. That's actually pretty funny. Alright, what do we got next? Orson tells you that we have some big news. Campaign headquarters just got a letter from the Commission of Presidential Debates, and in a split decision, they've allowed you to attend. Apparently, both Clinton and Bush agree to let you on stage, believing that you'll either do horribly or split the vote if you have a candidate. This will be a big stage, so what's your plan? Well, they'll regret letting me on stage, because I'm going to go into this debate nice and loose. The other candidates, they'll laying out their sound bites, spend all afternoon putting on makeup, but not me. No preparation. What you see is what you get, and I'll put Clinton and Bush to shame. Yeah, the crowd hollering all night. With your quick thinking and sharp remarks, both parties are starting to grow worried of you. In this era, television is about entertainment, and you were star of a show. The latest poll, 47% said you won. Well, there we go. How we do? Oh, it's beautiful. Holy shit. Whew. You meet with Jordan to discuss the upcoming VP debates. He tells you that based on her practice debate, Dr. Kirkpatrick has a Wilsonian quality to her. Discussing topics at length, her intelligence and political science acumen is put on display for her benefit. But in 2-minute intervals, her slow speech pattern and verbose vocabulary can prevent her from getting her point across and make her look like an egghead. With this in mind, he wants to know how we should prep her for the debate. Well, now that works for us, now doesn't it? She's smart, she talks like a professor. I'd rather have a professor as vice president than a pretty boy in a suit. Let's have her go out there and educate the people on the issues in her own way. She had a bad habit of going over her time in the debate, but so did Quayle and Gore, so she didn't stand out as much. Overall, she certainly presented herself as experienced, intelligent diplomat, which is why you chose her as your running mate. There was some talk about her being a second Al Gore, but overall Kirkpatrick came out on top of this debate. Well, there we go. We're heading to New York. Beautiful. You're at the second debate. It's a town hall debate, so just 209 uncommitted voters and you 3. The first question is to you. What will you do as president to open foreign markets to fair competition from American businesses, to stop unfair competition here at home from foreign countries, so that we can bring jobs back to the United States? Well, it's simple. If you're paying $12 an hour for factory workers, and you can move your factory south of the border and pay $1 for labor with no pollution controls and no retirement, you will. If we implement NAFTA, there will be a giant sucking sound going south. Yeah, he said it. NAFTA will cause American companies to close their factories and move to Mexico for cheaper labor. Nah, that wouldn't happen. The crowd laughs at the line, but they still agree with you. You can feel it. Afterwards, Bush goes up and says how great it would be to let foreign countries rob us blind, and Clinton skips around the question while indicating he supports NAFTA. Still, you get a good feeling about the rest of the debate. Well, ever since the start of the Iran-Contra affair, huge scale Reagan sold weapons to Iran to raise money for pro-American drug traffickers. Bush has always denied that he ever knew about it, but just 4 days ago, before the election day, a new charge has been introduced against former Secretary of Defense Caspar Weinberger, under indictment and facing jail time for lying to Congress about Iran-Contra. What's unique about it, this one, is that it cites one of Caspar's diary entries, which shows Bush knew about the affair and Caspar's opposition to it. Hold on one Texas minute. You mean to tell me that when the president's told the people what he's testified under oath about was a lie? Well, good gravy. This calls for an indictment against the president. The evidence is in front of us, and it's practically screaming impeachment. Bush knows you're after him, and he's running out of places to hide. He finds some Reagan-era judge who throws out the indictment on a technicality, but the damage is already done. Bush's polls plummet, and yours only soar. Though so do Clinton's at a concerning rate. Come on, New York. A week before Election Day, and you decided to have one last major interview. You're on Talking with David Frost. Everyone else was going on a show, you figured you should too. And you're having fun cracking a joke with him. Suddenly out of the blue, he brings up George Shultz, former Secretary of State under Reagan, also apparently a world-class snitch. Frost says he obtained advance copies of his upcoming book, which revealed that Gene Kirkpatrick supported selling arms to fund the Nicaraguan Contras. How do you respond? Well, I don't know if that's true or not, but if it is, I think it's important to remember they started selling arms to Contras in middle of 85? Kirkpatrick left the government in January of that year, so none of the illegal stuff happened under her watch. I'd hardly call it something to write home about. This is probably the best answer you can give. It also helps that barely anyone will watch this interview. Afterwards, Kirkpatrick calls and says you handled it perfectly. You almost ask whether Schultz was telling the truth, but you realize it really doesn't matter at this point. How we doing? Oh, it's beautiful. It's been almost 9 months. 9 months since you won Larry King Live and told the world, what you thought about the state of the country. 9 months since you said you would run for president of the people, put your name on the ballot in every state. Just 9 months, we've not only done that, but taken the nation by storm. By God, this has been one hell of a ride. Of course, all rides do have to come to an end. So, Ross, where will you go to have your final event? Well, it's no secret that I'm not like the average politician. Because of that, I'm going somewhere no one else goes. Alaska. While the other candidates enjoy the ballrooms and jazz clubs, I'll speak to some folks who've been ignored by Washington as long as it's been a state. The speech goes great. Everyone and their mama turns out to hear you speak. The only downside is that afterwards, your private jet had some engine problems, so you had to take a ferry to the airport. Before you disembark, the young man you were sitting next to shakes your hand and wishes you good luck. Here we go, boys. Well, Clinton's won D.C. I wonder what the margin is in D.C., though. Did we not get on the ballot in D.C.? No, it doesn't matter. We're on the ballot and winning everywhere else. Oh, my God. Okay, so Clinton won Arkansas. Big shock. Alabama's won by Bush. Everywhere else is coming up yellow. Oh, it's beautiful. It is beautiful. We won. We already won. We got New York. Okay, Tennessee and Georgia went Clinton. Virginia went for Bush. Louisiana went for Clinton. Mississippi went for Bush. So did South Carolina. Everywhere else, though, we are just whooping. We got Alaska by 60%. My God. I'm curious about the rest of these states. We got California. We got over 400 EVs. Didn't quite get Hawaii, though. We got Maryland. And we got Illinois. Look at that. 433 to 68 by Clinton to 37 by George H.W. Bush. Oh, it's beautiful. Holy achievements. Hey, what do you know? You won the election. I'd like to begin by saying that my name is Ross, and all of you are now my new boss. Now that's a good way. Now that's a good start to the speech, right? Well, absolutely, Dad. It's always a kill on the campaign trail. Turned to Margot. She smiled but shrugged her shoulders. You know that means she disagrees, but knows you like it. Ah, heck. It's the first time I'm not sure about a speech I wrote myself. The crowd will now quickly protest, with Margot and all 5 of your children saying it would go great, and the crowd will love it. Daddy, if anyone can give a good campaign speech, it's you, Susanna assures you. You look at the speech carefully, then fold it up and slip it back in your pocket. You're on the way to the White House now to greet Bush, but then you'll separate from the family to ride to the inauguration of President Bush. You originally wanted to walk from the White House to the inauguration, but the Secret Service said it was too dangerous. Boy, I can already imagine how uncomfortable the ride with Bush will be. Limo starts to turn into the path of the White House. The building in the distance fills you with pride in your country. It takes a second to register that by tonight it'll be your home. There it is, honey. Looks like we're about to get out. Oh, wait, you say, as the kids pause from strapping their seatbelts. You pause, trying to find out what you want to say. You already said a prayer at church, and you just smile. I love all of you. You're my greatest treasure, and I owe this to every one of you. The kids are honored and give your father praise as Margot turns to you and gives you a kiss. That was the right thing to say, she says as you smile to one another. They open the limo's door for you. After you get out, you give an awkward handshake to President Bush and hug your family. As Bush gets in the limo, you start to follow him before you turn back to your family. Buddies to the end. Buddies to the end, they chorus back. God, you love them. Perot declares Oh my god. What? Oh my god. Last night, during an electric town hall meeting discussing foreign affairs, President Perot declares that what was formerly Vietnam, Laos, and Cambodia would be the federal territory of Indochina in the United States. This comes only 3 months away from the 4-year anniversary of the start of a second Vietnam War, which has resulted in thousands having died and the region of Southeast Asia becoming destabilized. Holy shit. Oh my god. After much bloodshed, the United States established total, complete domination of Indochina. We've scared a place as the war's leader. We've avenged all the young boys who have died over the last 60 years in that wretched place. Wrap it up in a nice bow tie. We'll integrate the new Indochina as part of the United States of America. He later confirmed that this meant it would become a federal territory rather than a state. This announcement comes only days after an independent UN investigation found into Indochina found that no live American soldiers were found in the 1993 invasion of Vietnam, nor were subsequent invasions of Laos and Cambodia in 94 and 96 respectively. While the spot concedes that American soldiers may have been held captive even after the end of America's involvement in the Second Indochina War, we feel it's very likely that any soldiers kept in captivity would have died decades ago. The statement was considered especially bad news for President Perot, who justified the invasion to all 3 countries on the basis that there were still American troops secretly kept alive in these countries, and that they needed to be rescued. It was a major element of the 1996 campaign for re-election, as he sought to portray himself as a wartime president, determined to save the remaining soldiers held captive. Well, New Saigon's made the capital of Indochina. Canada announces American acquisition of South Asia. Reflections of the handing over of Hong Kong to China. However, at a press conference this morning, President Perot declared that the UN's report was incorrect. President Perot argued that it neglected to consult with sources that the administration had given to the UN, inside of the administration's own investigations, which found that it was extremely likely that there were still live American soldiers in captivity in Indochina. When asked what the consequences would be if it turned out there were no live American soldiers, President Perot adamantly maintained that he wasn't wrong, and that the soldiers would have been moved to either China or Russia. When a BBC representative asked whether they were considering further military action if China or Russia wouldn't return the soldiers, Press Secretary Sharon Holman interrupted to declare that the press conference is over. Oh my god. Okay, let's do result by states. Closest states. Won by 10,000 votes in Illinois. Look at that. Maryland, about 7,000 votes. North Carolina lost by about 20,000, we'll say 19,000. About 50,000 in Georgia. And Virginia, 70,000. I want to see the highest Perot percentage. Alaska, almost 60%. Maine, almost 60% as well. Kansas, 58%. Wyoming, 57.5%. Idaho, 57 flat. Utah, interestingly, 56. Montana, 55. Nevada, 54.5. Oklahoma, I'll just scroll down and see. The lowest is DC, which doesn't have Ross Perot for whatever reason. Lowest is Alabama, with still 20%. Not bad at all. Well, here's all the people who made this mod. A fun mod. Excellent mod. Would recommend. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and leave things there. I think is all as always for watching. If you like this video, like. If not, feel free to dislike. If you want to leave any comments or feedback, do in the comment section below. I read all comments I get, and I do appreciate any feedback you might have for me. Check out my various links down in the description box below. And, yeah. I'm just going to go ahead and leave things there. But I thank you all always for watching. My name has been Mr. Dogbot333. And I'll see you all next time. Bye-bye now.